What up, fellas? Welcome to another live stream of Memoir Men 15 Days Challenge. Today is day 9. I'm excited to be here. Took the weekend off. It was a pretty good weekend. Um, did the church thing. And the service was really awesome. Shout out to TFWC. My wife Yvonne did a praise and worship dance at church, and she killed it like she normally does. Um, yeah, it was a good weekend. Spending time with the family and all of that. Back to the grind, Monday, Tuesday, back to the grind at work, all of that, all of that. Today, I want to continue our conversations that we've been having in regards to Memoir Men. What is Memoir Men? We know it by now what it is, using reflecting on experiences, reflecting on current circumstances, even reflecting on our past, being able to pull out morals of the story, if you will. Right? What are some things that we recognize? So doing some introspective work. What do we think of or what did we think of when we were in that situation? What what is our motives when we're making decisions, and so it's important to do those introspective thinking, because it allows us to tap into our emotions. It allows us to tap into, you know, the part of us that sometimes as men we don't really give too much notice. But it is a very, very, very strong part of how we engage other people. You always hear stuff like men are more logical and women are more emotional. And it usually comes off as a dig, what I'm saying, for whoever wants to take offense to it. Normally it's the woman, like women are emotional. But the fact of the matter is, it's not that women are emotional in the sense of they're erratic. In fact, I think they just are able to tap in more to their emotion and recognize their emotions and be able to make decisions based on emotions, because there is a connection there, right? Making an emotional decision doesn't always have to be impulsive, right? Making an emotional decision sometimes can simply be, I am so connected with this is an indicator that this is the way that I should go. Whereas for guys, for the most part, it's more logical in the sense of, is if two and two go together, then that is then a reason to make a decision. And the fact of the matter is, I think emotion and reasoning are both necessary to make an important decision, right? And so I don't think one is better than the other. I think is, how they say it, two sides of the same coin. We need both of them. And so even as an individual, right? Yes, I am a man, but as an individual, it's important that I can take notice or take stake at the logical side of something and an emotional side of something. How am I uh, tapped into it on an emotional level? How connected am I to this decision one way or the other, right? Every life decision, where you're going to work, where you're going to live, who you're going to marry, it is not just logical decisions. So these are decisions based on emotion, and it doesn't have to be, again, impulsive, right? And so it's important to be able to do that. And so I recognize that. I recognize that the decisions that we make, there needs to be a level of emotional awareness, right? And that's where the introspection come from, all for the sake of progress. Reflection, introspection, progress. Those are the main tenets of Memoir Men. Memoir Men is a place where men can come in a space where they can be vulnerable, where they can open up and really share those emotions, to be able to hash out some things for the sake of progress. Each of us have our own strengths, and just to have that encouragement, right? Just to have that person to be like, bro, I know what you're going through, or bro, I've been where you have been, or bro, outside, I've never been in your situation. I can't walk in your shoes, but outside looking in, like we need people that have other point of views, other POVs. And point of view don't mean preference or opinions. Point of view could just be my vantage point from the angle that I'm in. You're in the situation. You're so emotionally invested. There's some things logically that you may not be able to see. And the person that's outside looking in, another brother, another person who you trust, who loves you, can be on the outside looking in and be like, those things that you're mentioning that are there, bro, I don't see them. Because they're not so emotionally invested that, they can um, you know, be lost in, for the lack of a better word, be lost in the sauce, right? They're actually able to see the forest for the trees. They're able to stand outside of the frame to see the picture. I can go on with these cliches, but you get the point, right? And so I think that's important. I think that's all important. Yeah, so that's Memoir Men. We're gonna keep continuing with these live streams, talking about and chopping up different topics like we have been doing. Today is going to be pretty simple. There's a little situation that happened today that I wanted to share with y'all. We'll continue the live streams. Today is day 9. We got 6 more days to go. So we'll probably wrap up about next week, Monday, and then the following that, the whole live stream, we'll launch our podcast. Well, we'll have extended conversations about different things related to memoir, men, all things men, men's health, men's wealth, men's relationships, right? I think it's all important, and we need it. You know what I'm saying? We need it. We need it. It's important. Going back to the topic of being emotionally aware, it's important. So without getting into too many details, because I don't know how much details I can get into, um, there's something going on with my job where I had to sit for a deposition today. And again, not to go too deep into it, um, I was just sitting there with a line of questioning. Now, one of my favorite shows of all time is, well, uh, currently, I wouldn't say all time, but currently, I used to watch a lot of. I kind of pulled back, but Suits was a good show. So I think I watched what season one, probably like 3 or 4, and then as time went on, I kind of like coasted off of it a little bit. But I mean, at one point, that's all I was watching. I wouldn't say binge per se, but I was consistently watching, and that was the only show that I was watching for a while. And so you can imagine, I think I've been watching it for about a year, and then I've end up watching about 3 seasons. So, so I watched a lot of those shows. I've watched other shows and movies where a person is being drilled by either a defense attorney or a prosecutor, and you get all shaken up and all of that stuff. And so I was in a situation I've never been in a situation like this before. And so I wasn't 100% sure how it was going, but I had a good idea, not only because I guess all the TV watching, but also with my job, there comes some situations where I do have to sit and get asked questions. So I figure it was similar. It's just that this was because it's a legal situation, right? So it was definitely more intense in a sense. Actually, in retrospect, I think I've been into some situations that's been a lot more grueling. But I think one of the reasons is, and which brings me to the reason why I wanted to share this story about me, being in this deposition, is I was aware of my emotions while I was being asked these series of questions. Some of them were straightforward, asking for facts, but some of them is almost like they were kind of almost digging at either my character or digging at, what I'm saying, how I run, the things that I do. You know what I'm saying? Do I adhere to basically to the policies, and what part of, like, it almost like wanted to kind of test to see how ignorant I was. And I'll be honest with you, some of that I was this close to taking offense to it, but in the past, right, the old me who was less aware about my emotions, whatever that was triggered would actually breed insecurity and cause me to be flustered, right? Cause me to answer erratically, maybe even cause me to be a little bit more abrasive in my answering, a little bit more brash, like, but I realized anytime I was asked a question that, almost like wanted to question my integrity or question my ability to do my job, right? Or questioning whether I was operating outside the scope of my job, I stood up, So instead of my old self, who would be more insecure, actually became a little bit more like assertive. Like, hold on, like, who you talking? I know what I'm doing. Now, I ain't a perfect dude by any means. My coworkers will tell you. But I realized, like, no, like, you are not going to come for me operating outside of my scope and come for my integrity and my ability to do my job. And so when I was posed the question, I was able to answer the question, and they'll come up. There was one situation where they asked me a question, and it was like, "Well, last time you said this, but now you're saying that." I'm like, "No, the way that you posed the question caused me to answer the question like I did." It's like, "Well, let me reiterate the question. This is what I said." But I remember clearly, even after the fact, as I'm reflecting on the deposition, I'm like, "That is not how you ask the question." It was almost, I wish I could I wish I could give you the question, but again, I don't want to get into too much details because I really don't know legally how much detail I can get into. So I'm not even trying to even go there. But you know, basically that was it. They were asking me a question, and the way that they posed it, it was almost like insinuating, like, is this part of your job to do this here? And what they were asking me was an obvious no, that is not part of my job. So why were you in a situation where you actually did this? It's like, no, like, you didn't hear, so kind of doing that back and forth. But I say all that to say, again, the old Nate, the Nate that was less aware of his emotions, right? The Nate that did not have an emotional intelligence, the Nate that did not spend time in reflection and doing introspection, right? Knowing what my people like the big word now is triggers, right? Don't trigger me. You know what I'm saying? I get triggered when people use that so much now, it's almost like it almost becomes a reason for them to react in a manner that is not beneficial, right? So you can get a tantrum, or you can be angry, or you can, right, it almost allows you to be emotionally erratic, because you acknowledge your triggers and someone triggered you, right? Just because you're aware of your triggers doesn't mean that other people are not responsible for your triggers, right? The reason why it's beneficial to recognize what triggers you is so that when you are exposed to the stimulus of your trigger, you move differently. It's not what's the word? It's not a license now to act crazy or irrational because, oh, this person triggered me, because I get triggered when people bop bop bop. So I recognize that when people challenge my integrity, challenge my abilities, then that would cause me to be insecure, which would allow me to operate in a few different ways, either in anger, or almost like that victim mentality, like that woe is me, I can't do everything right. I almost diminish myself, you know what I'm saying? I make myself less than because I don't want to feel the pain of not being seen in a high light, right? In a good light. And so I create that downcast myself so that other people don't have to do it for me. I recognize that's one of my things. But now, as I grow, those things, I can't keep those things as triggers. Again, the point of a trigger is not simply to just know it and continue to operate in that sense. Oh, I get triggered when this person does this to me. Or when you talk loud to me, I don't like it. I get triggered when people talk loud to me because my mom and dad used to yell at me all the time. And so now when you come in my face, I just like see red. No. The point of recognizing your trigger is when those situations come, how do you now, right? Move. How do you now make a calculated decision to do a certain action rather than being impulsive and erratic in your movements? Is not good enough to know your triggers. But if you know and are aware of your triggers, how can you then maneuver differently so that you can respond in a way that is healthy for you, your own mindset, your own mental health, but actually help the people that are around you? How does it help your relationships? How does it help you as a person when you recognize, acknowledge your triggers? Well, I'm going to move different because I know normally I would do this or do that. And I was in that situation briefly during this deposition, recognizing that you're trying to come for me. But instead of feeling frustrated or feeling angered because of the line of questioning or feeling frantic or insecure, no, man, I stood up. I'm like, no, this is what it is. Like, you ain't gonna tell me what it is. I know what it is. I was there. So you're not gonna spin what I did and tell me if I was against what were my motives, was I against, what I'm saying, policy, was it we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And the results are not up to me. And I think that's the end. That's really the end of it all. A lot of the times when we become insecure or angered is a lot, and when we're so-called triggered, is because a lot of the times we don't have control of the results, right? We don't have the control of the results. And so we fight, right? It's like that fight or flight. If I can't control it, I need to either run away from it or fight it because I'm losing control of this situation, right? And ultimately, and we don't have control of any external situations. The only thing that we can truly control is ourselves. It's important for us to be one-minded. It is important for us to be sound-minded, right? Scripture says that, right? God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. That word sound mean of one mind, not divided in thought, right? Not insecure, right? But sound in your mind, standing on truth, standing on faith, standing on what's real, what's accurate, right? What's factual, right? What's true. And so in these situations, we got to really know what is true. I love this conversation about truth and lie, and I want to talk more about it tomorrow. I think that'll be a good topic for tomorrow. How do we navigate truth and lie? And as much as we look at the world and see it out of the view of good and evil, the fact of the matter is not good and evil, but actually is truth and lie. What is true about the situation? What are the lies that are being told? When you have to defend yourself and you feel frustrated because the person is really not understanding you and you don't like to be misunderstood. The problem is not necessarily just how the person misunderstands you. The problem is you don't want to be misunderstood because it makes you feel a certain way. You internalizing that feeling is you accepting a lie. But if I know what the truth is about myself, and I'm standing on truth, right? People like to talk about standing on business. I'm standing on business. Well, before we stand on any business, let's learn how to stand on some truth. Let's learn how to stand on truth. Right? You could stand on business all you want, but you could be standing on business and still be totally wrong at the same time, right? right? So when people talking about, yeah, I'm standing on business as if it's something to be proud of, sometimes you standing on business and you just loud and wrong. Can we learn how to stand on truth? And not just to stand on truth on external situations or external things, but can we stand on truth about what God says about us? I think first and foremost, that's the most important thing. Can you stand on truth for what God says about you instead of believing the lies and getting triggered by things that you know are not innately true to who God made you to be? We don't have to take in that stuff. Shoot, at that deposition today, I wasn't taking none of that. I was not taking none of that. You're making me look like no kind of way, no kind of fool, like I'm ignorant, like I'm incompetent. That's no. I know what I'm doing. I know what occurred. These are the facts of the situation, and that's it. They would pose a question for me to answer a certain way. And because I'm so sound, I can not only see clearly, I can hear clearly. And so when I'm asked a question and the way that the question is posed, it is to kind of derail me and cause me to answer. It's answer yes or no. No, it's not just yes or no, because the way you answer that question is incorrect. This is why I did what I did. And I would answer, I would follow up a question, or I would answer and have a not even a follow up, because I've watched enough TV shows where you say yes or no and be like, okay, that's it, and you're not able to respond. I've watched enough. I'm aware. I'm an expert because of my hours and hours and hours of watching Suits. Now I'm not gonna go to no courtroom and try to take the position of an attorney or prosecutor, but I've watched enough to know. All right, so that's it for today. I hope I hope you was able to grab something that was valuable on today's live stream here on our ninth day of Memoir Men, our 15-day lives. We're going to continue this, like I said before, and we'll continue to reiterate till we're done with this whole thing. That podcast will come on the back end of that, where we'll have interviews, we'll have me bringing up different topics. So I want you to get involved in the conversation. Remember, this is not just me, a talking head. This is an environment. This is a platform where men can come in and share and have conversations, whether it's based on relationships, whether it's based on faith, whether it's based on health, whether it's based on finances, whatever it is that challenges your life. The last thing that I want is for you to be in those challenging situations and hiding in a corner, hiding in a cave somewhere. Right? We have our man cave, and it's cool to have that place of solidarity, but it can, or I'm solitude. That's the word, solitude. Right? And so it's place. I think it's okay to have a space where you can be by yourself and quiet your mind and be able to think on your thoughts. That's 100%. But to cause that to be a crutch, if it's a way for you to run away so that you don't deal with the things you need to deal with, then that's a problem, right? A place of solitude should not be a place where you escape to run away from your problems, but it should be a place where you can gather yourself, become one, so that you can engage the world. And so at some point, you got to come from the place of solitude and then come to a place of solidarity where you can not only be one by yourself in seclusion, but be one with a brotherhood who sees what you see, who thinks how you think, who sees what you don't see, who has a different mindset than you. And that's what we're all here for. And so I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear of, if I say something that's like, I totally disagree, take it on the platform. Let's talk about it. Because I don't know everything. I am not the sage on the stage. I'm not here to talk about how many degrees I have and y'all need to listen to me and here's all of my advice above the world. This is me hashing things out, doing my own reflection work, my own introspective work for the sake of my progress. And if I'm doing it and you doing it and we're doing this together in a space, a safe space where we can be vulnerable and it's okay to demonstrate our imperfections to one another, we can only grow from that. All right. So till next time, I love you guys. And remember, No man leads alone. Till next time. Peace.